you already qualify for a green card under a law that's been sitting quietly on the books since 1929. Not a new proposal, not a loophole some lawyer discovered last week. A real statute, still active right now, that lets certain people who've lived in the United States continuously apply for permanent residency without a family petition, without an employer sponsor, and without ever touching the visa lottery. Most people have never heard of it, and there's a reason for that. The date attached to it is so old that almost nobody alive today can actually use it. That's about to change, or at least that's the plan. Whether it happens in time to matter for you is the real question, and I want you to sit with that for the next 10 minutes, because the answer isn't what most headlines are telling you. The law is called Registry. It lives inside Section 249 of the Immigration and Nationality Act, and it works like this. If you've lived in the U.S. continuously since a certain cutoff date, and you have what immigration law considers good moral character, you can apply to adjust your status to lawful permanent resident. No petitioner needed. Congress has updated that cutoff date 4 times since 1929, and the last time anyone touched it was 1986, under Reagan, when they moved it to January 1st, 1972. That date has not moved in nearly 40 years, which means, mathematically, almost no one currently in the country without status can meet it anymore, because you'd need to prove you've been here continuously since before 1972. Between 2015 and 2019, only 305 people nationwide actually use this provision. 305. Out of an undocumented population estimated in the millions. That tells you everything about how frozen this law has become. Here's what's actually new, and this is the part almost nobody's covering accurately. In late July, Senator Padilla, joined by Senate Democratic Whip Dick Durbin and 14 other co-sponsors, reintroduced legislation to replace that fixed 1972 date with a rolling requirement. Instead of a specific year frozen in time, you'd need to show 7 years of continuous residence before you file. Because it's rolling, Congress wouldn't need to keep amending the law every decade going forward. Representative Zoe Lofgren has companion legislation moving in the House, building on a bill first introduced back in mid-2025. If this passes and gets signed, the change would take effect 60 days after enactment. Padilla's office estimates it could open the door to lawful permanent residency for more than 8 million long-term residents. That's where your headline number comes from. But notice the word could. This is a bill. It has not passed the Senate, it has not passed the House, and no president has signed it. I want to be very clear about that distinction because a lot of channels are going to blur it, and blurring it is how people end up making decisions based on a law that doesn't exist yet. Let me show you 3 people this actually touches because the reach of this bill is wider than most viewers assume. Picture a woman I'll call Marisol, who crossed into the U.S. in 2015 and has been working, paying taxes with an ITIN, and raising 2 kids born here ever since. Under the current 1972 cutoff, she has no path through Registry at all. None. Because she needs 53 more years of history she simply doesn't have. Under the proposed rolling 7-year rule, by 2026 she'd already clear that bar, assuming she has no disqualifying criminal record. That's the family-based side of this story. Now picture someone like Arvind on an H-1B since 2016, stuck in the employment-based green card backlog because of the per-country cap that disproportionately affects applicants born in India. He's not undocumented, he's not out of status, but he's been told his priority date could take decades to become current under the normal employment categories. Registry wouldn't touch his visa category directly, but understanding how backlogged the traditional system is helps explain why a bill like this exists at all. Congress keeps trying side doors because the front door has been jammed since the 2013 Gang of Eight bill collapsed in the House after passing the Senate 68-32. And picture a third person, someone I'll call Daniel, who came on an F1 student visa in 2017, fell out of status after graduation when his OPT ran out, and he couldn't find a sponsoring employer in time. He's been in the country continuously since, working under the radar. If the rolling 7-year window becomes law, his 2017 arrival would put him well past the threshold. 3 completely different starting points: a border crossing, a work visa backlog, an expired student status, and all 3 intersect with the same obscure 1929 statute in 2026. Why is this happening now, and why through Registry specifically instead of a bigger, splashier immigration reform bill? Because comprehensive reform keeps dying in Congress. It died in 2013, attempts to revive it died again this year when a competing House GOP immigration package collapsed over disputes, including a fight about a $1.8 billion enforcement fund. Registry is deliberately boring by comparison. Its supporters describe it, correctly, as a one-page fix. Change a date, make it rolling, done. No new agency, no new visa category, no new appropriations fight. That simplicity is exactly why more than 30 labor and civil rights organizations, including the AFL-CIO and the National Immigration Law Center, have lined up behind it. It's also, frankly, a response to the current enforcement climate. Sponsors have been explicit that they're moving this now because deportation activity has escalated, and they see a narrow legislative window before public attention moves elsewhere. Now, the mistakes. I'm seeing them everywhere in comments and in DMs, and I want to head them off before they cost you money or worse. Mistake 1. People are already telling friends the green card law changed, present tense, and that is false. Right now, today, as you're watching this, it is a bill. It could stall in committee the way its predecessors have for over a decade. Mistake 2. Assuming the 7-year clock, if it passes, starts counting from the day the bill is signed. It doesn't. It looks backward at how long you've already been here. So the exact wording of any final version matters enormously, and that wording can still change during negotiation. Mistake 3, and this is the one that actually hurts people. Paying anyone right now for registry filing services or priority processing tied to this bill. There is nothing to file yet. Anyone charging you a fee to get ahead of it is charging you for a form that doesn't exist. I've seen this pattern before with every major proposed reform going back to 2013. Notario scams surface within days of a headline like this one, and the victims are almost always people who are the most eager and the most desperate for good news. So let's go back to the question I opened with. You already qualify for a green card under a law from 1929. The real, unresolved part of that claim is whether the cutoff date moves far enough, fast enough for it to actually include you. Right now, unless you've been here continuously since 1972, the honest answer is not yet. The bill exists. It has real momentum with 14 Senate co-sponsors and a House companion, and an 8 million person impact estimate from the sponsor's own office. But it is sitting in Congress, not signed into law, and history says bills like this can sit there for years. If you're in a spot where you think Registry or any part of this proposed rolling date change might eventually apply to you, here's what I'd actually tell you to do. Start documenting your continuous presence now. Leases, pay stubs, school records for your kids, medical records, anything with a consistent date trail. Because if this passes, you will need to prove 7 straight years, and evidence gathered after the fact is always harder than evidence gathered as you go. Don't pay anyone for early filing. There's nothing to file. And don't make irreversible decisions, immigration or otherwise, based on a bill number instead of a bill's actual passage. Track it through the sponsor's own official pages, not secondhand videos, including this one. I'll be tracking this bill's progress and breaking down exactly what changes if either the House or Senate version moves out of committee. So if this is relevant to your situation or someone you know, subscribe and turn on notifications, because I'll have the update the moment there's real movement, instead of just another headline promising 8 million green cards that, for now, still don't exist.